This is a Mustang, one of the most famous cars of all time. Chances are if you ask anybody in the world to name a Ford, they can name the Mustang. But if you came here to listen to a boisterous muscle car, well... Yes, this is the Mustang Ecoboost, and before you huff and puff about the lack of cylinders, it's important to take a look back at what the Mustang really is. It's 1961 and America is changing, and there's a new generation of automotive leadership meeting that change. DeLorean, Dunshoff, and Iacocca. But today we're focusing on Owen Lee there because what he did is he saw Chrysler and GM shoving the biggest V8s into the smallest cars. And he saw that there was an untapped market to the side of that. Instead of making the fastest fast car, he would make the fastest affordable car. What his team came up with was the Mustang. A two-door, rear-wheel drive, mid-size performance car, but unlike the GTO, which was muscular and heavy, this was designed for all occasions. It had seating for 4, weighed less than 2,500 pounds, and critically, was affordable to the new generation of young people, the teenager. It was cheap. It cost $400 less than a GTO and half the price of a Corvette, which is pretty impressive for what you got. One of the very first options packages. You got 2 front seat options, 3 gearbox options, and 18 different paint colors. And then there were the engines. You could have a base 120 horsepower inline 6, or for $400 more, the classic 289 V8. Ford thought it would sell less than 100,000 per year, but after 18 months, sales hit 1 million. That's one car every 50 seconds. And as of a few months ago, they've been selling almost 10.5 million worldwide as the best-selling 4-seater sports car of all time. To try and put that in some form of perspective, if you add up every single Challenger, Charger, Camaro, and Corvette ever made, you still won't outsell the Mustang. And one of the reasons why is personalization. The original 1964 had about 3,600 different combinations of engine, body color, paint color, seat trim, etc. This one, over 51,000. And that's pretty much where the similarities end. The interior, for instance, is not flamboyant red or white. It's black cloth here, some fake carbon fiber trim there, and the cheap plastic which looks more fitting in one of Barbie's toy cars. Then we have the back seats, which are only called back seats, so Ford can label the 2+2 coupe and lower the insurance bracket. And then there's all the technology. Yes, this is the base model, which means that this is not as well equipped as the GT or the Premium or the 500, but that is to be expected, and that's not saying that this is poorly equipped. It's actually very good for a base model. It's got full track measuring equipment, G-force acceleration, lap time timers, whole shebang. It's got a touch screen here, thankfully not duct taped to the dashboard, so that's nice. All the buttons down here work and they make noise, so you actually know that they're doing something. It's nice. It's also very German and un-German at the same time, because all of this tech has, 3 different steering wheel settings, 5 different exhaust settings. I'm focusing on the exhaust for a second. The reason why I say it's both German and un-German is because the exhaust has 5 different modes. So you can change the valve opening for quiet in a residential neighborhood or wide open for track. It is quite nice. Now normally, a high-end manufacturer or a German manufacturer, something like that, would charge you a lot of money for that. However, this thing, it costs a whopping $120. That's it. There we it does unfortunately have a 4-cylinder, and yes, that does mean it sounds like a Honda Civic, which is actually not bad. It's very good for the environment, it's cheap, it's eco-friendly. I'm averaging 23 mpg in a 2-door sports car, but it is a bit bland sounding. Yeah, not great. But saying that, it is incredibly quick. Because, sure, it's a 2.3-liter 4-cylinder, but it's from the Focus RS, which means 310 horsepower, 350 torque. That's as much torque as an LFA. That is some seriously quick speeds. 0 to 60, 5.5 seconds. Top speed, 150. It's kind of intoxicating, to be honest. Yeah, it's a 4-cylinder. Oh, you're gonna have a V8. This has better weight distribution than the GT. This might genuinely be faster around a track than the base model GT. Certainly a technical track, because there's less weight over the front axle, better weight distribution, more balance. It's an all-around better handling vehicle. If the GT is a full-blown muscle car, this is a proper budget sports car. It doesn't have the same fun factor as a BRZ or a GT86 or an MX-5, but it definitely has its character, and you almost can't put a price on that. It just puts a smile on your face. It just puts a smile on your face. And the best thing about it is that anybody can own one. It's not a crazy expensive sports car. Even the Corvette C8, as great as it is, and as cheap as it is, being considered the poor man's hypercar with the mid-engine layout and everything, it's still 60 grand, not including dealership markups. This thing, it's less than 30K. It's half that, a third of that in some cases. And I would argue it almost puts the same smile on your face as driving one of those. It's just fun. That's how I describe this car. It's just plain and simple fun. Once again, this continues to be one of the best. Oh. I have to interrupt myself because it seems I've stumbled across an racetrack. I hate when this happens. However, that does mean I can show off the final of my driving modes. I put in sport, put in track mode, everything's off, life is good, put on my convenient helmet that I have just lying around, and then we will be all set to go. Okay. So, pros about this vehicle. 1. It is actually pretty light for a modern car, less than 3,600 pounds. Cons. Seating position with a helmet is not great. Also, manual transmission would be appreciated, not the 10-speed auto. So I'm a little worried about the gear shifts. And it's a bit of a road car, so I'm not sure the suspension would be great either. But we're going to work with what we got. We got in trim, we got the traction control off, steering is in sport. Everything is a go. And what better way to test that than a little spot of autocrossing. I'm really concerned about the Golf and the and the Veloster, so...
On you!
Nice and conservative this first run. Steering doesn't feel too bad. Turn in. Nice power delivery, turbocharger working well. Chuck it in. Can use a little bit better lumbar, I guess. And across the line. That didn't feel too bad. I think definitely a little more support would be appreciated. It is... How would I say? It's not bad. I'm not going to say that it's bad. In fact, I think that did better than a lot of people, including myself, anticipated. But it's not exactly refined as a track car. Okay, I definitely think there is room for improvement. I think I can be smoother. I think I can be better with my acceleration. I also need to warm the tires up, and they're not terrible, but I could definitely do better in the tire department, temperature-wise. So, here we go. Let's go for round number 2 now that we've started to get a feel for the car. I'm not really expecting any seriously quick laps on these first 2. I really just want to see how this car handles as a proper sports car, and whether or not those compromises I discussed on the road really hamper it that much on the track. Bit of understeer when you're pushing it hard. That's not ideal, but those front tires are relatively skinny. They're 235s, which means you only have a very limited contact patch to try and get any sort of turning on this thing. Obligatory sideways spin, alright? Obligatory sideways spin. Today's gone on a bit. We're getting more accustomed to the car. We've gone past, hopefully, the oversteer, hit a cone like an imbecile bit, so... Yeah, we're gonna not do that again. We're gonna try and drive more smoothly, less tire squeal. And more revs. Brake later. That. Now that wasn't too bad. I didn't hit the cone, but I did sort of take a wonky line and come on, get some traction, get some traction. Nice lay on the brakes. Smooth apex, a little wide. Yeah, I just don't really have... It's not the confidence, it's the... You almost have so much confidence that you really push it too hard. You overdrive the car a little bit. nice light apex. That was definitely a better run. It was cleaner. I didn't get any oversteer. I didn't hit any cones, I don't think. So, improvement? Yes. Definitely an improvement. Now it's really just getting the line dry. I was sort of a bit janky in some of those corners, and, well, the body roll isn't helping too much. It is a road car after all. It's a normal road car. It's not even like the sporty version. If this was the GT350, it would be planted. It would be nice and simple. But this is just a little bit wobbly on the suspension. You can sort of feel it leaning. And you don't quite have the lumbar support and the side-to-side support you need. So you sort of end up sloshed about. It's not ideal. But again, for a daily driver that costs $26,000 new, it's a very fun ordeal. And I think we're giving that Volkswagen a good shout on its money. It certainly feels like it on my little bit that I'm watching him, so I think we got this. The Sleek is good, but it's a manual, so it's not going to have the same... it's an old manual, I should say, so it's not going to have the same immediate response, although this thing isn't much better. Luckily, we're only in the first gear, maybe the second gear. I'm not 100% sure. So far, we've been averaging 5 mpg. I just looked down at my thing as I was happening to glance by. 16 minutes in, we're averaging 5. Better launch. We actually revved it properly, so the turbo kicked in. Cone's fine. Brake late. Now we're getting some confidence in this thing. A little bit sluggish through the hairpin. A little bit of oversteer. I can just feel the back end letting loose a little bit. This seems pretty darn good so far, though. Not too bad through there. I'm really racking it. Giving her everything she's got. I just warmed this car in. That was not a great hairpin. I was carrying a bit too much speed. But there we go. I think apart from that very final hairpin when I carried too much speed and just sort of slid off wide, I think that was a pretty damn good run. That was nice and tidy. I didn't hit anything. I got good traction. I'm very impressed with this car. I thought this would be marginally better than the Fusion because it is lighter and it's rear-wheel drive, but I still thought it would be a little bit sluggish on the acceleration because of the turbocharger. I still thought it would be a little bit too soft in the suspension, and I thought the gearbox would be a little too weak. However, and I think it's helped by the fact that it is a very straight-line, speed-orientated course, I think this car has passed with flying colors. This is better than I ever expected. I need to do that again. Okay, sure. It dramatically outperformed my expectations, but at the end of the day, it is still a sports car with many flaws. It has far too much weight for the horsepower provided. The engine note is dull at best, pumped through the speakers at worst. The suspension is a little too wobbly for the absolute peak turning. And the engine with its turbocharger does not have the same push out of a corner and throttle response as its more powerful, bigger, naturally aspirated cousins. But as a car, it's fantastic. Not because of performance, although I still stand by my statement that it is better than people give it credit for. No, it's fantastic because it's got a little bit of everything. It's got a little performance. It's got a little bit of comfort. It's surprisingly practical. And most important to me is that it's affordable to people like me, to the young automotive enthusiasts. I mean, you can easily get a cheap Fox body or an MX-5 or anything for far less than this, and I'm not saying that that's the wrong idea, but if you do want a new car, that new car smell, that feel, that safety, and that performance, then we actually have an option for people who want to experience the thrill of a sports car, or at least a sporty car. And this does that in space, and for that public service, I think it does alright.